Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome to one of many lake guides. Today we are going to be taking a look at Mosquito Lake. We're going to be talking about where the best places to fish on this lake are, what type of methods work where, also what sort of baits and everything. I'm going to give you two simple rules that you can probably follow throughout your time in Russian fishing for, and that is experiment. Okay, yes, there's baits that work, there's spots that work, but the fish are dynamic. They move around. Your great spot yesterday might not work today or in 3 hours time in game or whatever it is. So don't always stick to the same spot. If it's not fishing well, move on. Find your own spots. There might be undiscovered little holes, great little areas that nobody's really fishing. So, and the second rule, if in doubt, worm. Because worms are really good and you can get them for free. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a walk around the lake. I'm going to show you various different spots and the methods that work really well there, along with other little tips and stuff like that. So, welcome to Mosquito. We are right at the beginning, just in the little camp that you start at. The first spot, but sort of, there's three types of fishing, just in case you're wondering, if you haven't got that far. You've got your initial float rod, you've got the feeder rod, and you've then got spinning. They're the three main methods that work on this lake, and we're going to talk about all three today. And we're going to start with here. So I'm not going to actually sort of fish properly. I'm just going to sort of basically cast out to show you. Actually, what I'll do is this is my bolognese rod. Let's get the old telly stick out, which is the starter rod, which I still use. So first things first is right down at the start of this. There is a boat that you can rent. You don't need to. It's quite a small lake. So the first one here is just literally just down here. Just down here is a really, really nice float spot, which you can catch a ton of random fish. If in doubt, worm. We'll talk about more sort of baits as we go through, but one of the first things you should ever buy when you start Russian fishing for, it doesn't sound like it would be an instant purchase, but as soon as you've got the money, buy a shovel. Okay, this thing, behold my shovel, because you want to be digging worms. It's free bait. This is, I think, 38 silver in the shop. So it's, take a few fish before you can afford it, but it's worth it to get it as soon as possible, because not only are you getting free bait as you go, there we go, boom, worm. Not only are you getting free bait, you're also getting your skilling up, your harvesting bait skill here. So if we look in the skill system tree here, I'm not going to give you baits that you can't get at this level on this lake. This is early fishing, but as you level up harvesting baits, you can make other baits. So we're going to sort of keep it simple. I'm at 31% here at level 15, and you can grind that up. Anytime you've got a few minutes available, dig up some worms. Even if you've got enough worms, keep digging, because you can skill this up. So here's a really good spot. You just need to float with light tackle and not very much depth, 30 centimetres odd, but like I said, always going to say a million times probably in these videos, is experiment. The next spot from this hole from this spot is to fish in this deep hole. Now, deep holes, do you know what fish like deep holes? This joke's gone wrong, isn't it? But it's bream. It's just no joke. If you want to catch bream and other fish, you want to be fishing in this 5 metre hole or this 5 metre hole or that hole there. Bream love deep water. So if you're sitting here and you've got a float and a feeder rod, you can float fish just down in the margin here, and then you can whack this rod right into the middle, into this deep hole, and Bob's your uncle. You're doing both of the types of fishing. So we're going to start where we're going to go this way first. So I'm going to take you around. Like I said, when you get to a new water, what you want to do is just walk around the lake, take a lap around the lake and look for spots. Like here, there's no fishing really, because, you're fishing off a cliff face at this point. You always want to be down in the water if at all possible. And there's, like I said, there's more spots that I'm showing you. These are just personal favourites of mine. What you want to look for whenever you visit a water is features. And that's not discrediting empty water. Like we say, there's deep holes that we could cast into here. But any feature, so these overhanging branches, these weeds here might be a perfect little spot to float fish. But as we get further around the lake, there's some really, really nice spots. The first one is here. It's the sort of triple stick log thing coming out of the water. It's just in F7, and you can just flick out a float rod here, and it's really, really nice for a mixed bag variety of fish. And this goes to my second rule of Russian fishing for, if in doubt, worm, because worm catches most species. So let's say you're flicking out a worm here. and you're getting a bunch of different fish, but let's say you're catching a few more crucian, and they're quite decent size. You're thinking, okay, I might try and catch a few crucian. Is that you can then start looking at, okay, well, how can I focus on the crucian to cut out those little fish? And then you can go to the baits that might do this. And there's one really good way of checking what baits work for what fish, and that is to go to the records, but not just look at this. So this is the records by default. It's all regions, Mosquito Lake. So let's say we're looking for those crucian carp. So this is the overall records on this lake. So this guy's using boilies. We're not going to do boilies because they're much higher level. Sweet corn, that's quite an early bait. Maggot, we got an old boilie, they don't exist anymore. And so you're thinking there, going, oh, well, I don't have any of those, access to any of those baits. Yeah, I think you can get sweet corn at this level. But let's say, okay, but that's just the top 5 fish. That doesn't necessarily represent most of the crucian carp core here. So what you can do is click on each of the different regions and see their records, because it gives you a bit more variety. So look, looks like all the same baits, or similar, which would suggest Russia, which is where the game is most popular, has all the biggest fish. But we can go to Germany and we'll go to crucian. So now we can see this one's got 2 sweet corn, some potato, and some semolina, and good old worm, if in doubt, worm. And that's the biggest fish, 3 points. I wish. And then we can go to France. So you get a much better variety of what's being caught. So the sweet corn seems to be up there quite a lot. We've got a caddisfly larvae, another worm, and then we've got a cottage cheese dough, because, you know, that's the obvious bait. So go through the different things, and whatever you're fishing for, have a look. So this is a really nice spot to fish various different methods. And if you want to feed a fish from here, you can go out into the big pool, into the deep bit here, or you can just flick along the margins, almost fish in the same spot with a feeder. You can feed a fish really close in with a little flick cast. That's one of my sort of probably 3rd or 4th favourite spot on the lake, but we're going to keep moving around and get stuck in the trees while we're doing it. Like I said, there's plenty of other places to fish. This looks like a nice spot with these grasses going out into the... I've never had a massive amount of luck, but if in doubt, give it a try. Next up we have here, which is a really, really nice spot. Now this is I think the best spinning spot on the lake. So I'm just going to get my spinning rod just to show you what's going on. So we've got a spinner on here. Don't worry about getting caught or snagged in these grasses. You very rarely do. And if you do, just take off the bail on with the enter key. Give yourself lots of slack line and just keep right clicking. Maybe move a little bit and right click. So here you can... I'm just going to speed up the retrieval just so I can show you rather than fish. Did I do... Okay, I've just hooked a fish by accident. Okay, cool. Tiny little pike. Is that good? You don't even need to spin. And you can cast all the way. So you cast there once, we might cast that way, we might cast that way, and you've got a nice group of area. You can also float fish in any of these areas. This is nice just here, this is nice here. You can also... Sorry, I'm just showing off my Monkey Cola collection. What we want to do as well is get the old telly sticky out. You can put them all in hotkeys, by the way, but I just don't have this on hotkey. And you can, so any along here, but also up against these grasses is quite nice. Float fishing, I don't think is that good here. It's decent. And then feeder fishing, same thing. You can cast into these weeds. Just beyond them is really nice. You've also got, if you maybe just float fish down this margin here, but it's decent. But that is my spot for spinning. If you want to learn how to spin, go there. Try different lures and spinners and stuff. And now we get into we're into the best bits, boys. Now this is the good stuff, okay? Yeah, we'll keep with the telly stick. So we've got some lily pads here, which is okay. This is like the reverse end of that bit. So you might do the same thing. You can spin a fish here and just float fish to these lilies. But round here is my probably second favourite spot on the lake. There's some lovely little spots here. Another good little spot. But I'll tell you another good spot. And then, my friends, this is a really nice spot. This is fantastic spot for feeder fishing out against those grasses. If you're going for crucians, I'm going to go into my harvesting baits, so what you sort of level up early. Like I said, always go in with worm if you're not sure, but let's say you're finding crucians, then go for sweet dough. Sweet dough is fantastic. You can make it quite early on buying parts from the shops. It's really, really, really good for crucian. Most of the, if you look on the records, most of the big crucian carp, other than sort of boilies and stuff, are caught a lot of them are caught on sweet dough and variants of it. So cottage cheese dough is sort of similar, but later on there's also other stuff. But the sweet dough, because you can make that early on, is really, really useful. So you can feed a fish against those grasses out front, and then you can also flick your float rod just into these lilies or just beyond. Really, really nice spot. And if that stops catching, you can just flick it over there for some nice roach and stuff. And the reason I'm not talking about sort of individual species as much is most of this lake contains most of the fish in most of the areas. So if I mention a specific fish like crusions, it's because there's a good head of crusions often in this grass area. Now this is my second favourite spot. It's the same place but a different angle. The reason I love this spot is because with the little telestick you can flick out your feeder rod against those grasses with your telestick. This spot here next to this tree, again another feature, is said to a zoom, by the way, if you didn't know. This is a great little area just here. So we're already getting bites there, but have I got a fish up? Oh, do you stop biting? I know you're trying to prove to me how good this spot is, but yeah, just past the grasses here, just before, even in amongst that tree and stuff. Don't be afraid of getting snagged. Like I said, you know, when I first started playing, I was like, because I real life fish, I was like, got to be careful there. I'm definitely going to get. It's just not like real life. They're much more forgiving, this game. So this is probably my second favourite spot on the lake here. You've got a couple of options where to cast. You can cast down there if the floating fishing is not great, but that is great for feeder fishing, that area there. And then, not much there. And then, as we come around, this is what I call the Dolphin Spot. This is great for a number of reasons. You've got three main float areas. You've got the dolphin, because it looks like a dolphin, right? You can flick it under the dolphin here. Really good for fish. You can, if that's not working, or you can rotate between the three so you don't spook fish off and stuff. You can go in between the two lily pads here. Really nice little spot here, or just over to the other side of the lilies, like here. It's really good. And then if that's not fishing well, you can go in the margin just down here as well. So we'll drag it right in. So we've got right into the margin here. Really good if you go sweet corn for some nice tension here. If you fish a bit deeper for the tension, stuff like this. You can also flick out, if you've got a proper, like a bolo rod, a bolognese rod, you can flick out, you can cast a little further. But you can still flick out into the open water. Try that as well. Like I said, experiment. It's very important. Feeder fishing, obviously you can, it's a really nice spot here because you can go, so you can feed a fish against these, against these grasses here. Just chuck it perfectly in as close as possible to that. Always put your rod down at an angle if you've got a couple of feeder rods there. And if that's not catching, let's say the float fishing's going really well but you're not catching on the feeder, what you can do is you can still manage to cast over to the other spot that we liked, the other patch of grasses. So you can lob it over there and see how you get on. So it's that's my favourite thing about this area, is the fact that there's so many different spots that you can fish at. So come on, there we go. It gives you so many options. You're not having to walk around the lake all the time. You've got 4 or 5 different good areas to fish at. That's why this, for me, is the number one spot. There's one more big area I want to show you, and that is Perch area. This is Perch land. So we've got a couple of nice lily pads here, but this is a bit unfishable really because of the long grass. When you go around the lake for the first few times, you'll realise you get stuck on this bit because you have to go up and around over the bridge and then back down. There is a fantastic, probably my favourite perch spot on the lake, and it's not as obvious as you think because it's right and close. It's this log here, just out beyond. So I usually fish it from this side. So if we go back onto our telestick, fishing with worm, perch love worm, and like we said before, you're getting them free all the time anyway. So just flicking out anywhere around here up to the lily pads where the stick comes out, that little stick there comes out against the log with a worm. It's perch heaven, my friends. It's if you're doing a match or you just want to focus on catching a few perch, then go for this spot. It's fantastic. You can even go against this little branch here as well, but I found this branch to be the best here. And I often sort of think of, okay, cool, this is a great perch spot, but I've got a feeder rod that I want to fish at as well. So what you can do here, it's not best for the feeder. You can cast out into this pool, and you can go to the edge. Also, you can go to the edge of these grasses here. And while not the best, if you want to... just lob that out, full beans. while not the best feeder spot in my opinion, you can still catch some decent fish there as well. But the perch, I'm telling you, will keep you so busy you probably won't have time for feeder fishing anyway. One little trick whenever you're looking at a lake, say you want to cast into this hole here, this green arrow is showing exactly where you're facing. So if there's a particular spot, let's say I wanted to cast in this little nipple of the dark bit there, you can just sort of move the mouse a bit and go, am I there? Okay, I'm facing exactly where I want to cast now, and you just have to get the distance rather than the angle right. Next up, we have a few bits around here that's okay, not fantastic in my opinion, but always give it a try. The fish might have moved there and along here as well. The one last place I want to show you, and this is a weird spot I found randomly, is just wedged in right as far as you can to this bit of hill there, and again flicking out your float rod just beyond the tree here. So we're just flicking out just beyond the tree. We bring it back in a bit into this. I find this doesn't always catch, but when it does, it is some big fish, some big roach I've had out of here and all sorts of stuff. So that's a really, really nice spot to go at. And then you can feed a fish your 2 rods into the heavy shelf, into the heavy pool here. Also, most of the features you quickly learn. Like, okay, sunken trees, good. Weeds, good. Grass, lily pads, all good. They're all good features. And there's a couple of invisible features. One we talked about, which is the deeper pools for the bream and other fish like that. But also ledges and shelves. What we mean by a shelf is underwater. A lot of lakes won't be perfectly sort of, smooth sides all the way down. It'll be like about down a bit, and there'll be like a drop off. And carp really love that. So what you can try doing is you can go, okay, I don't want to fish for bream here, or there's not just bream, but give it a try. Is fish just as it gets deeper here. Try and find a little shelf that you could do. Obviously, in real life carp fishing, you'd be going, feeling it down and all that sort of stuff. But you can find those sort of ledges as it drops off deeper, especially in areas where it drops quite considerably, quite quickly, because this lighter area is the shallow area, and then it gets deeper and deeper quite quick. So this spot here might be a lovely little place to feed a fish. Same as just in this ledge here, might be really nice and stuff like that. So there we go. I think there's our lap of Mosquito done. If you have any questions, if you have any tips for other people where your best catches have come from, feel free to put them in the comments. You can either use the compass coordinates down there in the bottom right, or you can just give us a map reference and say, look, H4 on Sweetcorn, that's the 10th spot, or whatever it is, because the more we help each other, the more we can all get bigger fish, and who doesn't love a big fish? So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to know, if you've just got to Mosquito and that's why you're watching this guide, go and check out a couple of sort of my 4-part episode for beginners guides, because not only does it cover the very basics, which you probably know by now, but episode 3 especially, because it's what to buy first, whether you should buy a feeder rod and what type of feeder rod you should buy, or spinning and all that sort of good stuff. So parts 3 and 4 might really, really be useful to me. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're going to be doing lots more venue guides, and we're also going to be doing some fishing highlights and other sort of trips, and I stream on Twitch as well, so the link is in the description. And also join our little group. We've got a chat group with almost 400 people in now, so once you join the game, hit the little cog, go down to where it says all the different user-made channels, go right down to where it says me, which is Loki Doki, click on it to join. Everybody's really helpful, and they'll answer any questions you have and all that sort of good stuff. And join my Discord as well, because we've got a group there showing off big catches, telling people where they found them and all that useful stuff. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.